A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. In a bold and controversial declaration, President Donald Trump has announced that the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela is to be considered completely closed. This move escalates tensions with the Maduro government and signals a significant shift in the U.S. approach towards drug trafficking organizations and political adversaries in the region. The announcement was made through Trump's Truth social platform, where he urged airlines, pilots, and even drug dealers and human traffickers to heed this warning, stating that any unauthorized flight in the area could be viewed as hostile and subject to military intervention. This declaration comes amid a substantial military buildup by the U.S. in the Caribbean, including the deployment of the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier group and thousands of troops, raising fears of potential military action and a regional crisis. On Saturday, President Trump took to social media, urging all relevant parties to please consider airspace around Venezuela be closed in its entirety. U.S. officials echoed this message, emphasizing that the airspace closure aims to deter both commercial and illicit flights, making it clear that unauthorized aircraft could be treated as security threats. Although the White House has not provided specific operational details, the message is unmistakable. The U.S. is adopting a hardline stance against Maduro's regime and its alleged involvement in drug trafficking and organized crime. As of now, Venezuela has not issued an official response to Trump's announcement. However, regional allies like Cuba have condemned the U.S. posture, labeling it as aggressive and warning of the potential dangers of military escalation. International airlines are now assessing the risks of operating in or near Venezuelan airspace, with many expressing concerns for the safety of their crews and passengers. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, had previously advised pilots to exercise caution due to increased military activity, but Trump's directive extends this caution into a full-blown no-fly zone. This airspace closure represents the latest escalation in a months-long campaign by the Trump administration to pressure the Maduro government. Since September, the U.S. has conducted nearly 20 known strikes against suspected drug-laden vessels in the Caribbean, resulting in at least 82 fatalities. These operations have been justified by the U.S. government on the grounds that Venezuela serves as a hub for international drug trafficking, with several Venezuelan criminal organizations, including the Cartel de los Soles, designated as foreign terrorist organizations. This designation empowers the U.S. to employ its full counterterrorism statutes, including lethal strikes and financial sanctions, against these groups. The military buildup in the region is unprecedented in recent decades. The USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest aircraft carrier in the world, has arrived in the Caribbean, accompanied by a strike group that includes destroyers, submarines, and thousands of troops. This deployment marks the most significant U.S. military presence in Latin America since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis and is intended to demonstrate the U.S.'s resolve and capability to enforce its demands. In addition to naval forces, the U.S. has also deployed Air Force bombers and special operations units, and has authorized covert operations within Venezuela by the CIA. Trump's declaration of closed airspace has ignited considerable legal and diplomatic controversy. The United States does not possess the legal authority to close another nation's airspace, as this is a sovereign right reserved for the state in question. Nevertheless, the U.S. directive appears to be aimed at deterring commercial airlines and private operators from flying in the region, effectively isolating Venezuela both economically and diplomatically. Critics assert that such actions could violate international law and provoke retaliatory measures from Venezuela and its allies. Human rights organizations and several U.S. allies have condemned the recent military strikes against vessels, describing them as extrajudicial killings that lack legal justification. The French foreign minister has voiced concerns that these strikes could breach international law, while Colombia and the UK have also expressed reservations about U.S. actions. The lack of transparency and evidence provided by the U.S. government regarding the targets of these strikes has further fueled international skepticism. Venezuela's government has yet to issue a formal response to Trump's airspace closure, but preparations for potential military confrontation are underway. In recent weeks, Maduro's forces have conducted military exercises and increased their presence along the border with Colombia and the Caribbean coast. The Venezuelan military has also received support from allies such as Russia and Iran, both of which have expressed alarm over U.S. aggression in the region. The crisis has deepened regional divisions, with some Latin American countries advocating for dialogue and de-escalation, while others align themselves with the U.S. stance. Nations like Cuba, Bolivia, and Nicaragua have denounced U.S. actions as imperialist and have called for solidarity with Venezuela. Conversely, Colombia and Brazil have shown support for the U.S. campaign against drug trafficking, although both have urged caution to prevent a wider conflict. The airspace closure and military buildup are likely to have significant economic and humanitarian repercussions for Venezuela. The country is already grappling with a severe economic crisis characterized by hyperinflation, shortages of essential goods, and a collapsing healthcare system. The isolation of Venezuelan airspace could further disrupt trade and humanitarian aid, exacerbating the suffering of ordinary citizens. International airlines may suspend flights to and from Venezuela, severing vital connections for business and personal travel. The disruption of air traffic could also hinder the delivery of medical supplies and food, which are already in short supply due to the ongoing crisis. U.S. sanctions and military pressure have already led to a sharp decline in Venezuela's oil exports, a critical source of revenue for the government. Despite the heightened tensions, there are indications that both sides may be open to dialogue. Recently, President Trump reportedly spoke by phone with Maduro, discussing the potential for a meeting between the two leaders. Maduro has previously offered investment opportunities in Venezuela's oil fields and other sectors to the United States in an effort to ease tensions and attract foreign investment. However, U.S. officials have rebuffed these overtures, insisting that Maduro must step down as a precondition for any negotiations. The international community has called for restraint and a peaceful resolution to the crisis. The United Nations and several regional organizations have urged both the U.S. and Venezuela to avoid military action and seek a diplomatic solution. However, with both sides entrenched in their positions, the risk of a wider conflict remains high. In summary, President Trump's declaration that Venezuelan airspace is closed in its entirety marks a dramatic escalation in the ongoing standoff between the United States and Venezuela. This move is part of a broader campaign to pressure the Maduro government, combat drug trafficking, and potentially pave the way for regime change. However, the legal, diplomatic, and humanitarian implications of such actions are profound, and the risk of a wider regional conflict is very real. As both sides brace for the possibility of military confrontation, the international community faces a critical challenge: to prevent the crisis from spiraling out of control and to seek a peaceful and sustainable resolution. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, so hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.